What is up, guys? Today is September 13th, 2020, and you're watching Horseshoe Politics. Now, this video is going to be a bit different than most of my other videos because I don't really feel like doing any editing today, and this entire segment is going to be all in one take, and that background you see now, that's going to be the backdrop for the entire video. So, that picture of the coronavirus on screen, that's not going to change throughout the entire video. I don't have the time to edit today, and I don't feel like it also. So, this video is just going to be me giving my thoughts on what the next several months are going to look like and what things have been like up until now regarding the COVID-19 pandemic specifically and also its implications. So, I decided that today would be the day to make this kind of video because today is actually personally the 6 month anniversary of my school first getting canceled. But let's just talk about what things have been like up until now, in the US especially, but also maybe worldwide. So, as of now, we're closing in on the 30 million number for number of worldwide cases for COVID-19. But here's the thing, that number is severely undercounted. There's definitely way more than 30 million cases worldwide. I can tell you that much. Because there's so many cases worldwide where the people who get the virus, they're not able to get tested. They don't think they have it. A lot of people are asymptomatic. In fact, at least 20 to 50% of cases are asymptomatic. It might even be higher because it's hard to know how many really are asymptomatic when there's no way to tell whether or not they have it without them actually getting a test. And most people aren't just going to go out of their way and get a test unless they have a special event coming up soon where they need to go in person and they want to be safe. But most people aren't going to get tested unless they know they have it, so the number of cases are severely undercounted. Probably at least worldwide, at least three times that amount, so close to 100 million worldwide would be a more accurate number by now. As for the deaths, we're reaching a million deaths, unfortunately. It's already over 900,000, 928,285 deaths to be exact. And this also is definitely undercounted, although not as much undercounted as the number of cases. Because with the number of deaths, uh, the deaths are more noticeable. Like with the cases, it's easy to notice. It's easy to not notice if you have the virus. Like you could be asymptomatic and you're never gonna know you had it. But with the deaths, they actually die from the virus. Then it's a lot easier to tell. Oh, they had the virus. So, but even then, there's some people who may have died from the virus, but it wasn't really known that they had the virus. That's one possibility. Or their death just isn't flat out reported at all. Maybe in some poor areas of the world, the reporting is not up to speed. Maybe in those areas, those deaths from COVID-19 aren't counted in the worldwide total. So all these different factors are why the number of cases is way more than 30 million. The number of deaths is definitely above 1 million. But I think the number of cases is more undercounted than the number of deaths. Now that we've talked about worldwide cases, let's go a bit into more detail with the US cases. So as of now, the US is reaching 7 million cases, 6.7 million as of now, and deaths are right under 200,000. Probably by this end of this week, we're going to reach 200,000, which is actually a really big number for a number of cases and deaths when compared to the rest of the world. Because the US is only around 4-ish% of the world, but has like 20% of the cases by now. 6 million over 30 million, that's around 20%, but we're way less than 20% of the population, which shows that we've been doing a lot worse with the virus than other countries. And there's multiple different reasons for this. I would say the biggest reason is just that we're a lot bigger country. It's a lot harder to do the way that our government is set up in the US. We're a federalist system. We're not a unitary system of government, meaning that you have a national government, but then you also have each state that can make its own laws. And what this means is that each state is handling things in a different way. So even if it looks like there's a national spike in the number of cases, that really just means some of the states are having spikes, but others are handling it well. Like in the summer, there was a giant spike in number of cases, but that was just because of the southern states like Texas, Florida, and California, Arizona. Those states were getting spikes, but states in the Northeast had already recovered from it. So the national number even especially in a country like the U.S., the national number of cases is kind of misleading when you have different states that have widely different policies regarding the virus. So that's just with the U.S. specifically and other federalist societies, but most countries in the world actually are not federalist systems. I found that out recently. I thought that was kind of interesting, but that's kind of besides the point. We're talking about the US. So, the US has close to 7 million cases, right? And around 10% of those cases are from California. In fact, more than 10%. California has over 700,000 cases, and it makes sense that California would have the most cases. They have the most amount of people, more cases. That's pretty obvious. Same thing with Texas and Florida. New York is fourth on the list behind Florida, Texas, and California, which would make sense because it is around the fourth most populated state in the country. But the thing about New York that sets it apart from California, Texas, and Florida is that New York had their massive major spike back in April, while the other three states that I just mentioned didn't have their biggest spike until around July-ish, middle of summer. And all these states, at least for Texas, I know for a fact, but California and Florida, I'd also assume they're starting to improve. But I know Texas for a fact has improved quite a lot in the last few weeks. I'm on the California statistics page right now, and if you take a look at it, you can see that California has also improved quite a lot in the last few weeks. And if I go take a look at the Florida page now, if I just scroll down, I can see Florida has also improved quite a lot. So all these states, they had their spikes, their biggest spikes in the middle of summer, while New York got it over with in April. So in New York, they had to pay the biggest price, they had the most amount of deaths, and they had 33,000 deaths, which at first, when the crisis was first going on, New York made up like almost half the cases in the nation and almost half the deaths in the nation. But then as other states started having their big spikes, New York's percentage of the share got less and less over time. So we've talked about in pretty good detail about what COVID has been like up until now for the past 6 months. But now let's talk about how is this crisis going to end? How is it going to play out? What's the end game to all this? That's something I wonder to myself a lot because I've been in this crisis. I've been under lockdown essentially for 6 months. I've not gone out that much. I guess in recent times I've gone out a bit more, but for several months I mostly just stayed at home. Whenever I went out, I had to like make sure to wear the mask and all that basic guidelines that everybody should be following. Only make sure you always wear the mask whenever you go out, and then obviously whenever you go out, make sure you socially distance as much as you can. But how is this all gonna end? So recently, Dr. Fauci made a statement that things aren't gonna go back to normal in the U.S. until end of 2021. I'm hoping that it's not that long because that's still another year from now, and it's already been 6 months, and already it's felt like a long time. But we still have another year to go until everything's completely back to normal. But in most states, it seems like most states have already gotten past their biggest spike. I think there's a few states that are having newer spikes. I think mainly in the Midwest area, but the Northeast got it over with in the spring. Southern states got it over with in the summer. But there's also the huge concern of the second wave. Is there going to be a second wave in the fall? Now, a lot of people are saying there are, but I don't know for sure because the thing about this virus is that a lot of people thought it would die out in the summer for the most part, like the flu, because of the higher temperatures. But as we can see by the data, that did not at all happen. Its biggest spike was in the summer for the United States, meaning that the temperature did not help to stop it. So, in theory, that means that there shouldn't be a spike specifically because of the temperature in the fall. But another big concern is that there's two viruses in the fall. There will be two viruses in the fall. Not only will there be COVID, but there's also going to be the flu to worry about. But I would think that if everybody's already doing the social distancing for the most part and wearing the masks, then the flu season itself shouldn't be as bad this year as in most other years. But a lot of the scientists are also saying that you should get the flu vaccine sometime in the middle of September, which would be around now. So I'd suggest if you're able to try and get the flu vaccine, it'll definitely help to stop spreading the virus as much. But I'm kind of concerned about the second wave, whether it's not it's gonna happen. I really hope there's no like big second wave, because with the flu, especially with the 1918 pandemic, there was a giant wave in the fall that's known as the second wave because the first wave was like in the spring of 1918. It was pretty small compared to the fall, but the fall, whenever the temperatures cooled down, there was a massive second wave. But with the COVID-19, it's apparently not resistant to heat change. It's apparently resistant to heat changes. It's not affected by changes in temperature. So in theory, the second wave shouldn't be happening because the temperature changes, because it shouldn't matter whether or not the temperature changes if it's resistant to those changes. But at the same time, schools are opening up. That's one big cause of concern. A lot of schools are opening up. A lot of them aren't really able to implement the proper social distancing guidelines. They can't properly enforce mask wearing. All those different factors might cause the virus to spread a lot more. Then, of course, you have the whole college campus dilemma. And a lot of different college campuses, there's huge clusters of cases, and apparently some people are on those colleges are partying a lot, on those campuses are partying a lot. But I don't think it's right to blame one specific age group for this massive pandemic. I mean, this pandemic, it hurts old people more than young people in general, but like anybody can get it. I don't think it's right to blame one specific age group for it, because everybody has to suffer through this pandemic. And for young people, especially, uh, things are already tough for them because this pandemic has also ruined the economy, for example. And for 18 to 24-year-olds who've just graduated high school or graduated college, it's pretty difficult for them to find jobs now in this sort of market. You have massive unemployment across the country, also, that's also there. And then there's, don't even get me started on the stimulus package, which Congress is not able to decide on because they were out for a few weeks, but now I think they've just gotten back into session in Congress. But the thing is that they're not able to agree on a package. There's like a massive gridlock in Congress. Republicans want this, Democrats want this. They can't agree. Nothing gets passed. There's reports saying that we might not even get another stimulus package before the election, which I really hope is not the case. I really hope they can figure out a way to come to consensus and just release a package, because a lot of people need something. People have struggled tremendously throughout this entire pandemic, both physically and economically, and also emotionally, obviously. But this stimulus package needs to be passed soon because unemployment already ended in July. So for a lot of people, they were cut off starting then. And then there's also the whole eviction crisis that's starting to happen, and a lot of people are getting evicted from their apartments or their homes, or if they're renting a place to stay, they're getting evicted because they're not able to make their payments. So this pandemic, this whole crisis, it's not just one layer. There's the health crisis, there's the economic crisis, there's also the mental health crisis. There's so many different ancillary impacts of this pandemic. I guess the last thing I want to talk about now is when I think a vaccine will come out and be available to the general public. So there's two different questions to this. One is, when will the vaccine first be created and thoroughly tested and made sure that it's safe? For this, I would predict early 2021, February, Marchish. That's my personal prediction. But I am not at all involved in the vaccine creating process. I honestly have no idea. It could be sooner. It could be before 2020 ends. It could also be later. It could also be like summer of 2021. But my prediction, based on everything I've read, would be February 2021-ish, early 2021. But that's a different question from when is the vaccine going to be distributed across the country and when can herd immunity be achieved. The first problem is that people aren't going to be willing to take the vaccine right after it comes out because the vaccine is being created a lot faster than usual. So it would make sense that people have concerns about the safety, but the problem is that then it takes a lot longer to reach that stage of herd immunity. But I think that herd immunity won't be achieved through vaccine or other means until at least 2022. There's it's not even known whether or not herd immunity can be achieved naturally through people just naturally getting the virus, because there's reports of people getting the virus twice. So the only way to ensure herd immunity would be to make the vaccine. But some people have to take the vaccine first. And the thing is, I don't even think the vaccine is going to be publicly available to everybody. I don't think they're going to have enough doses for everyone until like end of 2021 probably. I guess that's why Dr. Fauci was saying things will return to normal by then, because the vaccine won't be able to be distributed across the entire country until then. But I think it'll take until middle of 2022 at the least to reach herd immunity, because it's a long process. Making the vaccine is not the end game, not the end goal. There's still more to it after that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I didn't really feel like editing today, so this is all just one backdrop, and then I actually did a few takes because I messed up a few times. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you come back tomorrow. See you then.